Well, I want to welcome Phoebe Ballard. She's a senior instructional designer at the University of Toledo. She teaches online and web-assisted courses for the University of Toledo's College of Communication and the Arts. She's also one of our 2013 Exemplary course winners. And she's also a Quality Matters certified peer reviewer. So with that, I'd like to turn things over to Phoebe.
Thank you so very much, Sharon. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, they can.
Okay, fantastic. It's a wonderful privilege to be here today with you and other members of the Blackboard user community. I've delivered, I can say confidently that I've delivered hundreds of faculty development workshops over the last 10 years, but I've never done a webinar before. And so admittedly, I'm a little nervous, but I'm so excited to be here and to have the opportunity to share some things with you and to learn from you as well. I would like to start off by telling you a little bit about the University of Toledo. Maybe we can skip over some things about myself. But the University of Toledo is a public metropolitan research institution that serves about 21,000 students. We are located in Northwest Ohio, and we are one of 14 state universities in the state, so just down the road from Detroit. UT was established in 1872, as evidenced by this beautiful bell tower that we have in front of us, and became a member of the state university system in 1967. In July of 2006, UT and the Medical University of Ohio merged to form the third largest public university operating budget in the state. We now offer more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and professional programs in 17 different colleges, with nationally ranked programs in business, engineering, law, as well as occupational therapy. We also offer one of the largest distance learning programs in the nation. I just kind of ended up in distance learning as a fluke, and I feel very fortunate to have landed at this particular institution when it comes to distance learning. As you mentioned, I currently serve as Senior Instructional Designer and Coordinator for Special Projects in the University of Toledo's Division of Learning Ventures, where I've been for about the last 10 years. Learning Ventures is charged with facilitating and coordinating the appropriate integration of technology into the delivery of the university's courses and their degree programs. In doing so, we support faculty in the design of online courses as well as blended and web-assisted courses. At UT, web-assisted courses are courses that meet face-to-face and that use Blackboard Learn and other kinds of teaching technologies like clickers and lecture capture to support the teaching and learning process. This fall, we have about 450 online courses with well over 11,000 enrollments in those courses. As you mentioned, for the last 4 years, I've also taught online and web-assisted courses in UT's College of Communication and the Arts. Here's a photo of yours truly looking a little bloated and unsure. I'm standing here with my colleague, Cedar Burns, who's former lecturer of new media. Cedar is now a lecturer with the University of Michigan. And this summer, we were so delighted when our online art course, Fundamentals of Digital Media, was a recipient of a Blackboard Catalyst Award. It is that experience and that wonderful honor that brought me here today. But that is more than enough about me. I'm dying to know more about the people that we have joining us here today. And so I'd like to take a few minutes to learn about you. And to do this, I would like to conduct 2 back-to-back polls. Okay? So the first poll, I'm dying to know what industry you're from. You come from a corporate setting, do you work for the government, higher ed, K through 12, or something not mentioned here.
So just go ahead and use the polling features where before there was a green check mark, there's now an option to choose A, B, C, D, or E. So if you go ahead and do that, then we'll go and publish the results to the whiteboard so you can each see where most of you seem to fall. Okay, wonderful.
I see a note in the chat about my voice sounding muffled, and I apologize for that. I will try to do what I can on my end to correct that. Thank you so much.
That sounds a lot better.
Okay, good. Okay. Looks like the majority of users are from higher ed, but we also have some corporate and government representatives here, as well as other. I'm so curious about that other. Okay, next question. I'm dying to know how much experience you currently have working with Blackboard Learn to design or teach, or both, to teach courses, whether they're online courses or web-assisted courses or a blended hybrid approach. Thrilling to see that we have some people in here that are Blackboard learners. That's kind of an answer choice that almost makes you want to pick it, even if it may not be true. Okay. Everyone had an opportunity to vote? Okay. It looks like we have users from all over the board, which is great. There may be some things that I cover for those of you that have more experience or a substantial amount of experience that may be a little tedious to go through. But I always find that when I attend these kinds of things that it is just helpful to have a different perspective to see how other institutions or other individuals may approach the design process when using these tools. I know that I feel isolated when it comes to that, even in working in a large institution. And so I'm always excited for the opportunity to see how people do other things. Okay. Great. Let's go ahead and move on. When I was, well, let me start by kind of outlining the learning objectives, right? Because it's always good to inform the learner of the objectives, whether it's online or face-to-face. I once had a teacher in my graduate curriculum who compared adult learners to that of kindergarten students. If you think about little young people that you know in their lives, and they'll often want to know what it is exactly that you're going to do for the day, and if you stray from that, they're going to call you on it, and they may ask for a cookie. So while I don't have any cookies to deliver virtually, I do want to make sure that we have an outline or agenda for the next 45 minutes. So my goals in delivering this material is my hope that you as a participant will be able to understand what course structure is and describe the role of course structure in online and blended and web-assisted delivery. That you're able to summarize some strategies for creating a custom course structure within Blackboard. And that you're able to locate some embedded resources within the learning management system that you can use for design and technical support. Okay. When I was thinking about how I would go about in getting us down that path, I felt like I kind of needed a bit of a framework. And so to do that, I decided to look to the Blackboard Exemplary course program Rubric. Okay. The Rubric basically breaks down the evaluation, the design of a course into 4 major categories. There's being course design, interaction and collaboration, assessment, and learner support. And while I have these items listed here sequentially, it is important to note that in terms of the design process and setting up your course, we also don't think about these things in a linear fashion, nor should we, because the elements of these particular 4 items really overlap with each other and can be woven together into a very rich tapestry that can comprise your course. So let's break these down a little bit further. Course design addresses elements of instructional design. And in terms of the ECP or the Exemplary course program, course design includes such elements as the structure of a course, the learning objectives, how the content is organized, as well as different instructional strategies. Interaction and collaboration can take many forms. The criteria in terms of the rubric place an emphasis on the type and amount of interaction and collaboration with an online environment. Interaction in this instance denotes communication between and among learners as well as instructors, either delivered synchronously in real time or asynchronously, independent of time. Collaboration is also a subset of that interaction, and it refers specifically to those activities in which groups of learners are working interdependently toward a shared result, a shared outcome. Assessment focuses on instructional strategies that are designed to measure the progress, measure student progress toward the articulated learning outcomes. It also enables us to provide feedback to students with feedback loops that occur between the instructor and the student, and the grading of student work. This section of the rubric also addresses the quality and type of student assessments within the course. Finally, learner support addresses the support resources that are made available to students taking the course. Some of you may have resources that you can embed within the course, or they're already embedded within your own institution's learning management system, or they may be taking advantage of support resources that exist openly or that exist externally to your course but are internal to the institution or organization. It can include a variety of services, and it also provides opportunities for students to give anonymous feedback about the course and the course activities. With that in mind, I'm going to stop killing you by PowerPoint, and I would like to go in to Blackboard Learn so we could look at some strategies and approaches to setting up a course template, or a course without a template, rather. Okay. So I'm going to share a browser window. Let's see. Okay. And are people able to see the inside of my browser window with the Blackboard course site screen? See some yeses. Okay. Okay, wonderful. Okay. So our institution has a hosted product that we host our own version of Blackboard Learn, but there's also course sites that is available for anyone to use. And that's where I set up a kind of a demo site for us to use for this purpose today. So I've set up a course where I am the teacher. And when you first go inside the course, or a course at your institution, the quick setup guide may be enabled. The quick setup guide is designed to walk you through, step by step, some considerations that you can make in getting your course set up and getting a template going in your course. Okay, so it allows you to enter the name and description of your course. I'm going to minimize that for a second. It also allows you to choose a course structure. The course structure feature is really very fascinating. And whether you're a new user to Blackboard Learn or you are Blackboard Learner and you have substantial experience with this platform, I would encourage you to carve out some time to take a look at some of these features that are available under course structure. Blackboard has created various templates that are arranged according to activity, or with a focus on communication, focus on content, different kinds of systems that you may be more familiar with using, as well as a focus on time. In this menu listed on the left, you can click through the various items to kind of get a preview over on the right of how that structure would look in that menu on the left side of the screen. And it also provides a link where you can go to Blackboard's Help Center to learn more information about the course structure and the various tools and content areas that are included in that particular structure. It's a wonderful resource. Okay. You can, from the screen, choose to use some of these structures. And if you were to select one of these structures, you could also include content examples within the different areas. Okay. It's important to note that if you do decide to want to use one of these course structures, it will include all of the content from that structure to your existing view on the left. It won't overwrite everything. It will add all of that information to the top of the menu. Okay. But if you would like to start from scratch, you can absolutely do that. Quick note here, on the screen you can also choose a course theme in relation to the appearance of your course. You can also have some items for learning about how to use different content areas, how to organize things, how to change the settings within the course. If you do not disable this quick setup guide, it will appear every time you log into the course. So you may find it helpful to hide the quick setup guide. I'm going to make sure that I haven't selected a template. Okay, and then you can apply the changes. If you get rid of this menu and you want to go back to it, you can always go to the customization feature under your course management control panel. And the quick setup guide can be accessed here under quick setup guide, as well as under teaching style right below it. Okay? So both of these particular tools or areas under customization will enable you to get back to those same particular screens. Okay. The course structure that we have listed on the left is the default structure that is provided out of the box when you first, whether you're using course sites or if you have an installed product at your institution. Institutions do have the ability to create a master template or multiple master templates that they can use then as they create courses. At UT, since we have so many different courses and so many different programs and departments using Blackboard, it has been impossible for us to find a template that would satisfy the needs and the goals of everyone. And so we tend to go with what we have right out of the box and then work individually and collaboratively with faculty and departments to customize this area. Okay. When you're first brought into this default template, you're presented with the home page. I will admit, I think back on my experiences when we first upgraded from WebCT 4.0 to Blackboard version 9, and I first saw the home page, I will honestly admit that I hacked like a cat. I felt overwhelmed when I looked at this, and it took me a while to get used to it. But soon after, honestly, I found this to be one of the most useful areas in terms of keeping my students abreast of important changes in the course and to help reinstill my sense of presence in my online courses when students couldn't see me. So even if you're kind of reticent to use this particular home page, I would encourage you to give it a shot. Now this page is actually called a module page because we have these different modules, okay, which are listed over in the middle. We have 7 that are listed here. Some of these modules are very student-centric modules in that they communicate information solely to students. We also have some modules that are more geared towards faculty needs, and they communicate information about student performance and student attention, and it's information that students aren't able to see. It's only for faculty. And then we have some modules that allow both students and faculty to benefit from the kind of information that is presented here. This is a very personal decision. You have these 7 modules listed here, and there are many more available under Add Course module. But I would encourage you to use 1 or 2 and to give them a try to see how they can be beneficial for you and your students. For myself, I typically limit myself to maybe 2 or 3. I'm a big fan of announcements, tasks that I can list to students for each week, as well as the What's New module, because it helps students stay abreast of when new content is added, and it helps all of us to see when new discussion posts are added to class and group discussion forums. Okay. If you get rid of some modules and you want to bring them back, just remember that if you have edit mode on, you can always go back to this Add Course module area to explore and add different modules to that area. Something else that I would encourage you to do if you use this page is to add a custom course banner to your site. I compare it to my experiences in a K-12 classroom or a K-12 district. I was a substitute for a year. And I'd go to some areas of the district and there would be wonderful rooms that were warm, they had fresh paint, they had posters on the walls and fun, interesting things for students to look at and to be engaged with. And it really communicated to students that the instructor cared. And then I'd go to other parts of the district, which unfortunately had less money, and the paint hadn't been updated since the 1960s, and there were broken pencils and books with torn spines, and the environment was very cold and uncaring. And so for me, adding a banner and customizing the appearance of the course really helps to set the tone from the beginning that I'm excited that you're here, and I'm excited about what you're going to be learning in the weeks ahead. Okay, so I always like to add a page banner to this area, and I already have something loaded in here. I'm just going to browse the content collection and throw something in. Okay, it's important to include alt tags with this or an image description, and in this case, it would need to say what exactly what this is. For time's sake, I'm just going to call this banner. So do as I say, not as I do. Okay, and I'm just going to jump this over a little bit. Okay. So by adding a course banner, you can really help to start to customize the course experience and set the tone for things. Okay. Next, we need to actually get into the content, okay, and the tools and the other areas that students will need in order to learn things in the course. Okay, and so I'd like to drill down and have us kind of customize this information that's listed over on the left. I wanted to start by showing you an example. I went on a hunt this week to find the worst course menu I could find in my institution. Sometimes this happens where we want to make sure that students see so much information that they have it front and center that we will inundate this menu over on the left with everything that we possibly want to give them in the course. Okay, but as you can see from the menu item here, okay, that this can easily become overwhelming and disorganized. Okay, and so our goal in terms of setting up that menu and establishing a course structure is to give students things in manageable segments, to make this navigation really intuitive, and to make sure that the links that we provided to students flow in a logical progression. And an exemplary course rubric really emphasizes that. So this would be an example of a course menu that you would not want to add. Okay. So what do we want to add? Okay. Generally, we want to start out at the beginning of the course with giving students some general information about the course, right? Okay. So we want to give students an overview of the course. We want to give students access, if you're in higher ed, access to the syllabus, okay? It's important to give students the schedule, especially online, fully online courses. Students need to be able to manage their coursework around their very busy lives, their obligations at work, with their families, within their communities. And so it's important to give students a very clear and detailed schedule at the beginning of the course. Maybe when we want to introduce ourselves to the course, we need to articulate specific kinds of policies that will be important to learners to consider as they work through the course. So we need to create spaces to give students introductory materials. Okay? So this template has a content area. The content area in Blackboard is essentially just a folder of information. It's a space where you can put lots of other things in it. So we need to create a content area to give students that information. There are a million different ways that you can do this. I'm going to show you the way that I do it, but I would encourage you to think carefully about this in relation to your own particular teaching style and your philosophy of teaching and learning, and to create spaces using names and terminology that makes the most sense to you. So we have an item over here for information. I typically, you can either delete this and start afresh, or you can just rename it. So I'm going to hover over this with edit mode on and just rename this link syllabus. Okay, so I'd like to give my students a syllabus, and then I give them information about course requirements and policies, grading scheme, different contact information, as well as articulated learning objectives at the course level. Okay. A lot of people put their schedule in the syllabus, and I like to take it out of the syllabus document and pin it to the course menu as well, so that students don't have to go rifling through the syllabus in order to find out what needs to be accomplished either that week or in the weeks ahead. Okay. So I'll go ahead and mouse over this plus sign in the upper left corner, and I'm going to add another content area or folder, and I'm going to give it the name of schedule. You may have a topical outline that you want to give students. Really anything goes, any name that you want that makes sense to you, and that will be easy for students to understand. I'm going to make it available to users, click submit, and move it up the page. Okay? The chances are, after reading the syllabus, students will want to look at the schedule as well. Okay? There may be some other types of introductory information that you want to include. Maybe you want to break your syllabus up into different chunks. Within the content folder, you can do that as well. But you definitely need to create a space or a couple of spaces that will allow students to get to that important information that they need at the beginning of the course. Now, some of you are probably thinking, well, where's your welcome message or start here page, especially if you've been in this business for a long time. That is important, but I'm going to have us get to that at the end. Okay? Next, I'd like us to move on to thinking about the delivery of content. Many times when I sit down with a faculty member for the first time to talk about the design of an online course, we'll spend some time talking about the purpose of the course, how they might traditionally conduct the course and assess student learning in a face-to-face environment. I talk about the unique practices in online learning, and then drill down to look at the overall course level objectives and to brainstorm assessment and learning activities that will fit in alignment with that. Sometimes when I'm talking with faculty, they've already done some of that thinking and they're ready to jump right to it. And so they'll start to tell me about the different kinds of areas that they want over on the menu in relation to the delivery of content. And so they'll start to think about it in very particular terms. Like I want a folder for all my PowerPoints, and I want a folder for all my readings, and I need another folder for case studies, and then I have some handouts, and I want a folder for lecture captures, and I want a folder for websites, okay? Now, while that is one way to approach the delivery of content, I might argue that it's not necessarily the best place for us to start. That instead of thinking about our instruction in terms of the type of media it is and organizing in that way, that we start from a very different place. Instead, I would encourage all faculty to approach it from the perspective of what people often call backward design. What are the learning objectives for the course? And if you were to break that down into topics or units or phases, what are the learning objectives for that topic or unit or phase of instruction, even if it was more of a project-based course or an experiential-based learning course. What is it you want students to learn at the end of this? What do you want them to learn? Once you've established that, to think about what kinds of instructional materials will contribute to the achievement of those objectives. What learning activities will promote those objectives? What kinds of assessment will accurately measure what you want students to learn? And finally, what kinds of course technology, particularly in Blackboard, will help learners get down that path? Okay, so when you're thinking about the types of ways that you want to deliver content, I would really encourage you to think about it starting with the learning objectives. It all comes down to what we want students to learn. And when we think about it in those terms, it gives us an opportunity to branch away from the folder structure of PowerPoints, case studies, readings, journal articles, etc., and to think about how we can package learning objectives, materials, activities, and assessments into these nice little things so that when students go into the course, they have an opportunity to access all the resources that they need for that particular unit or phase or project. Okay. So in doing that, I generally like to include only one or two major areas for content delivery, okay, and then breaking things down into more manageable chunks or segments with this environment. I believe the next bit session next week will give learners an opportunity to see new and different ways to organize content within those areas, and so that may be something they're interested in. But just for content delivery, we may want to create a content area or use the one that we have here. If we're not happy with this name, we can always rename it, right? Whether it's content, weekly content, whether you have things developed in learning modules, topics, units, chapters. I had taught a visual communication course where everything was done in phases. We had different phases within our learning. Really anything goes. But create an area for that, give it a name. Oops, I can't type today. There we go. Okay, and add it. Okay. Now you could certainly add other areas within this menu. I can think about some of the art courses that I teach where I like to give student models, examples of other student work. So you could certainly add other items to this menu, but I would encourage you to, again, to think about chunking things into manageable segments and to limit the number of items that are listed over here. Because you can then really drill down within these main content areas to add other things and to add more organization. Okay? Next, I'd like for us to think about assessment. Okay? Remembering that in an online course, really any course, it's good for us generally to have a range of assessment. So we're not just giving traditional quizzes and exams, but we're giving students an opportunity to apply the principles of the course in a real-world setting so that they're engaged in authentic tasks. Okay. There are many different ways that you can do this within Blackboard. We're so fortunate that we have tests and quizzes that we can give, practice opportunities that we can give. We can collect assignments with the assignments tool. We can use great inline grading feature or Safe Assign. We can use both of those things to collect authentic tasks. We can also assess students using communication and collaboration tools like blogs and journals for reflection. Discussion forums, either as a whole class or within a group, so students can express or demonstrate their knowledge in that way. We also have wikis for collaborative activities. But in general, we need to kind of create some of these spaces so that students can quickly access some of the assessment items in the course. Oops. Can everyone still hear me? I'm sorry, I had an issue with my phone. Are we good? Yes, all right. Thank you, Sharon. So one of the things that I like to do is to go ahead and to create more content areas on the menu related to assessment. Now, again, you could embed those items within replay content. But if I have a course where I will be giving students a number of quizzes or exams or collecting a number of assignments with the assignment tool, I also like to go ahead and create a content area on the menu so that students can get to those access those areas quickly. So I'm going to go up to my plus sign in the upper left, and I'm going to create another content area for quizzes. You can call this quizzes, tests, exams, exams room, testing center, quiz room, anything goes. Again, it's related to terminology that makes sense with you and that correlates the outcomes that you've established for your course. And maybe I may want another area for assignments, or maybe a Dropbox. Okay, where you want to collect a number of things, whether it's writing assignments, projects, assignment tasks, etc. Okay. The next item in this list is discussions, and I definitely want to use this, but I want to skip this for a little bit and kind of jump over to learner support. Hopefully we can start to see here a sequence within the menu that I'm trying to lay out the content in a navigation that will hopefully be intuitive and that will present the content areas and tools in the order of which students would naturally use them. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is to give or create spaces so that I can connect learners with different kinds of support. It's wonderful to give students with the help of Blackboard's On-Demand Learning Center access to the wonderful video tutorials that they have available. There may be technical, academic, or student support services within your own institution, as well as department or program specific resources that you can give to students. At UT, we work heavily with our librarians to connect librarians to students and faculty. So we'll include live guides or LibGuides as a menu item. Maybe you have a dedicated help desk at your institution or organization. You have Blackboard's help link listed over the left. And so all of those things can really be categorized under learner support. If you have something external to your institution, let's see, I had a page open and now I've already lost it. But you may want to include something for that. I was going to add a web link, but forget it. I'm just going to create a page called learner support. Again, you can call this resources. You can call it whatever you want. Pick a name that will make sense to you and will be self-explanatory for students. Okay. Included in learner support in terms of the exemplary course rubric is the need to give students an opportunity to anonymously evaluate the course, the quality of the course, the design of the course, the teaching of the course, not only at the end of the course, but throughout the semester, and to do so anonymously. So you may want to go ahead and create a content area for course evaluation. Blackboard does have a wonderful enterprise survey tool that came out with some of the latest service packs. We're exploring that with at our institution. But I would encourage you to create some vehicle so that students can give you feedback. Again, in the middle of the course, throughout the course, and at the end of the course. Okay. We're almost to the end of this here, but really important with this is interaction and collaboration, okay? A well-designed course really involves three different types of interaction and activities, okay? It offers students opportunities to interact with the content. It offers students the opportunity to interact with faculty members. And it offers students the opportunity to interact with other students. A well-designed course also offers three different types of activities. Okay, individual activities, okay, that students complete independently. Activities in which students work in smaller groups. Okay, even if they're not working interdependently, maybe they're sharing ideas within a group setting. And then an opportunity for students to come back together as an entire class to share those ideas. Okay? So I'd encourage you to think about those three elements, or rather 6 elements, as you think about interaction and collaboration within your own course. We're so fortunate that Blackboard Learn offers a wide range of interaction and collaboration tools for us to use. We have an external email tool and an internal messages tool. We have class discussion forums. We have chat rooms, and voice board if your institution has that enabled. We have blogs and journals for reflection. We have wikis for collaborative activities. And then we also have group space that allows us to incorporate many of those same tools and features within a small group setting. Okay? So many wonderful things to do. You will see here in the menu that one of the default template items is the school page. And if you look at that within the institution, okay, if you don't have this enabled at your platform, you can go to the plus sign to pull up the tool link. So this lists all of the tools that are available specifically within course site. Now sometimes when people are first starting out, they tend to leave this up as is. And if you can think about it from the student perspective, this would be incredibly overwhelming to see for the first time. You might log in and go, what on earth do they expect me to do with all these tools? Okay? So if you're going to use this page, I would really encourage you to think specifically about the tools that are going to help support the course and unit level objectives within your course, and then to hide everything else, okay? And to do that, if you have edit mode on, you can simply hide these links. In my own courses, I don't use this page, and I actually get rid of it altogether because I find it helpful to pin the items that I want to use directly to this menu, okay? So I'm going to actually highlight this textual menu or chevron and delete this. I can always bring it back if I get rid of it by going to that plus sign. But I get rid of it because I want to put the specific tools that I want students to use directly on this menu. Okay, so in doing that and adding these interaction and collaboration tools, I like to keep the tools at the bottom of the screen and to kind of separate them using Blackboard's dividers, which is a little line, and the subheaders. Because for me, it feels that doing so enables my students to quickly and easily get to the key communication and collaboration tools that I want them to use in their course, okay? So I will group everything and list it near the bottom so that students can find this information very quickly, okay? I definitely want to give students an opportunity to communicate with me via email, so I'm going to add to a link. And I'm going to name this email, and I'm going to select it from this list and make it available to my learners. Okay. Now there's one important thing that I've left out of all of this, and that is a start here or a welcome message. I would love to conduct one last poll and to find out how many of you use a start here or a welcome message in your courses. Okay. We have, let's see, all right, great. It looks like the majority of you have used the start here or welcome message in your course. That's fantastic. If you don't, I would encourage you to start doing so. A start here or welcome message is really important for helping to introduce students to the purpose and structure of a course, to give students a general overview of the course, and to help students learn how to navigate the course site by explaining what each tool is for and what they should do next after they look at this information. It's very comparable when you teach the face-to-face setting, the kind of speech that you would give to students on the first day. It might even be a place where you want to introduce yourself to the course because it's really important for students to connect with you, to get a feel for who you are as an instructor, beyond the basic essentials, like who your name is, what your name is, what your credentials are, what your contact information is, etc. Okay? It's incredibly important, whether you're teaching a fully online course or a blended course, to include a Start Here welcome message on your site. And so I'm going to add another content area for Start Here. That's what I like to call mine, but again, certainly you can call it anything that you want. And I'm going to move this up to the top right below the home page. Okay. My brain just totally went blank. The reason that I save this particular item for last is because it's really important to go ahead and get your course structure in place, to think about what your objectives are at both the course and the unit level, and to create these features and add tools that will help support the achievement of those objectives. Once you have all of that set up, then you can go into your Start Here page and give students detailed information. Here's what the tools are on the left, and here's how we're going to be using them in this course. Again, and to share a personal example, at UT, we don't have a custom template. Students would love it if we had a custom template because many courses do very different things. What we have certainly found, and Blackboard recommends this, and Quality Matters recommends this, is to give students important start documentation that helps to alleviate some of that confusion and anxiety that many students feel when they're first getting started in the course. Okay. That's pretty much it that I have for today. I would like for us to, since we have about 9 minutes left, give you an opportunity to ask specific questions, and I'll do my best to answer them.
Great. Thank you so much, Phoebe, for sharing this experience with everyone. So at this time, if you do have questions, either please jump in the chat window, and actually, since it's not a huge group, if you want to ask your questions over the audio, you can feel free to push your talk button as well. So it looks like Jamila asked, I did not hear, did she say on the welcome page to include the format of the class?
Oh, I'm so sorry that you didn't hear that, Jamila. I'm sorry that I had audio problems. I appreciate your patience. Yes, I would explain in the Start Here page what the course structure is, what the various items are listed on the menu, and to give students, it doesn't have to be a dissertation, but to give students a couple of sentences that help to thoroughly explain what that area is, what that tool is, and how it's going to be used in your particular course. Does that help to answer the question?
It looks like he might be typing. Here we go.
Oh, in terms of the Start Here page, I can see your question, Jamila. Will this be an audio or written communication? That's an excellent question. There are many ways for you to do this. In my own courses, I tend to rely heavily on text with some imagery embedded in it for my Start Here page. But you could also do it with audio. You could do it with video. You could do it with lecture capture or screen capture, where maybe you walk students through specifically by clicking through the various areas as you talk about those things. You can do all of those things in combination. It really comes down to what you prefer. But of course, it's important when you're designing your online curriculum to include a variety of media. So we have things written in a narrative format. We have images. We have opportunities for students to use or have access to rich media to support their learning process. Thank you for that question, Jamila. Are there other questions?
So I think he just put another comment in. Great, it's actually a problem a client I know is facing, and they are requesting for one class. They requested a meeting for one class, but it sounds much better. Thank you kindly.
Thank you for your question.
So we'll give it one more minute. I don't see any other people typing in the chat. So please ask your questions if you have any, or if you wanted to show anything else, or go deeper in an area that you covered. This is your chance.
I thank you so much for your time today. I hope you were at least able to get a few nuggets that will be beneficial to you as you move forward on your own journey of teaching and learning with Blackboard. I've provided my name and email address on the screen, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I was going to say offline, but rather off-collaborate if you have something specific that you would like to ask, or just want to help brainstorming something. I love talking about teaching and learning, especially when it comes to technology and the use of Blackboard. So I'd be happy to share ideas, or to hear other ideas or suggestions that you would like to offer.
Well, great job, Phoebe. Thank you so much again sharing your experience with the community. So at this point, we'll wrap up since there doesn't seem to be any other questions, and we will send out this recording. And I really appreciate everyone joining today. So thank you, and have a great week.
You too. Thank you.